YouTube, what the crap's going on? Sorry it's been a few days. There's been a whole lot going on, but as you can see in the background here, the old world burns at the hands of Archaon and his troops. Let me give you an update on where we stand. Alright, a couple of things. Since the last episode, this isn't exactly where we left off because I tried to film an episode, but I had some technical difficulties that I'll describe in just a second. All I want to splice in from the last episode is a couple of highlights. First is going to be some of the viewer comments from the previous episode, and second, I'll just show you a couple of the battles that happened. I didn't actually get to record the battle footage, and I'll say why in just a moment after that. Alright, Sank says he can't wait for Patchy to make his debut in this series as a Chaos Lord, preferably with the title Patchy the Eversalty, Avatar of the Air, chosen of the legendary difficulty gods, Scourge of cheaty AI, Lord of the lame jokes, maker of questionable tactical decisions, killer of loyal lieutenants, master of sweet cinematic shots, and not so great micromanaging virtuoso. Thanks. We actually will see an appearance by Patchy, and we will use your name. We're going to have Felman Ingerson follow Prince Sigvald. Actually, Ingerson's going to lead the Marauder army that's going to follow Kholek. So we can have Patchy lead the mutant army that's going to follow Sigvald. So I think that we'll work it that way. But great comment. I like it. Alright, Nico Don says that he wants me to name one of Sigvald's knights Rattenfanger? Ratcatcher? For they got all of the gutter runners. We can do that as well. I like it. So I don't know exactly which one we'll pick, but we'll just pick one here. This is going to be Rattenfanger. There we go. Done. Alright, folks, this next one's a bit of a novel. You should listen to it because it's good, but if you want to skip ahead, you can. But here we go. So Chaos was this is from Derek Guerrero. Chaos was upon them. The hordes of the Everchosen now marched to their gates, their banners decorated with the still fresh heads of those with the bad luck to survive the great battle of Talabheim, only to be captured and sacrificed to the dark gods. In front rode their mighty leader, the herald of the apocalypse and slayer of kings and demons alike, Archaon the Everchosen. His black steed decorated with the head of Karl Franz himself, a cruel prize, a mockery of the defenders and their dear empire of man. Otter Nussbacker, great captain of Talabheim, stood in foolish bravery against the mighty host that now approached, knowing well that their deaths were most likely assured, yet still hoping for a miracle to appear. As the enemy approached, his men gathered around him, all in clear terror of what was to come, but ready to perish at the very least to buy time for the Empire. What about the Knights of Leoncoeur? Finally one asked, putting in his mouth the single hope that remained in everyone's hearts. Will the armies of Bretonnia come, my captain? Courage is the best defense you have now, he finally answered. At last, completely aware their only hope would not come, prepared to die, he unsheathed his blade and turned towards his knights to give them one last command. He gathered the last knights of Talabheim before the walls, hardened soldiers that managed to escape the field of blood that had been the defeat of the Emperor's host. The captain had prepared his final blade to sally out and make the hordes of the end times pay dearly for their approach, perhaps even rout their main force. But now he realized his plan was nothing but wishful thinking, the hopes of he who did not dare to recognize that all was lost. My brave knights, all is lost. The Empire is fallen. All that remains are men like us, foolish enough to think we can stop the tides of the apocalypse. I will not tell you to flee, nor will I ask you to fight what is certain death. I only beg you to save our people, spare them the horrors of what await us, even if only for a time, for we are all the soldiers of Sigmar, and that is our only duty. The knights stood silent for a while, but as soon as the mortar fire started glowing in the air, almost as if it had awoken them, one by one turned around and started to evacuate what remained of their people. Then two shadows for a moment blocked the sun, as the captain raised his eyes, only to see Sextus and Appius, the two hounds of the Everchosen, flying towards the rear, hunting for his mortars, and blocking all escape for the people of Talabheim. The end times were upon them, and there was no escape. That is quite a comment from Derek. Derek, thank you. It was good. A very, very dramatic and poetic reading of the battle that was the fall of Talabheim. And here is all that's left, the flaming ruin of the settlement. Sigvald has been ambushed by Clan Mulder during the turn-in. I have no idea what we're up against. Good grief. The amount of rats in this area is just too dang high. So Hergig learns that even though their treacherous piece of crap temporarily injures Sextus, the rest of the army's not deterred. Appius went in for his comrade and personally killed 189 of Dolph's men, and you can see the Reavers of the Night Faith would have slaughtered them for weeks on end. So, over the last few days, I had just gotten back from travel, from having gone down to Texas on a business trip, which during that business trip the hotel Wi-Fi was awful, so I wasn't able to get content done like I hoped. When I got back, my family was sick, the boys were, so I start taking care of the boys with Mrs. Eyre, and then Mrs. Eyre gets sick, goes to the doctor this last weekend and finds out that she has the flu. So I was taking care of the boys and her, which makes it hard to make content. And then when I did sit down to make content, I noticed that my recording was really slow and the frame rates were all off. And then I spent 8 or 9 hours trying to fix it and couldn't figure it out, and eventually just completely formatted my hard drive, reinstalled Windows, reinstalled everything, and it fixed the problem. So here we are. So I do apologize for probably about a week of relatively light content. I don't intend to make a habit of it. You all know how I am. I've always been pretty dang consistent with cranking out content, and I intend to continue. But you kind of saw what happened, at least a couple of the highlights in the last one. Really the only thing that makes me, and some of you might be like, well, Eyre, how come you didn't record those battles? I did. When I formatted Windows, I thought I had the replays saved, but I didn't. So I screwed that up. I didn't lose the campaign save, thank goodness. But yeah, I did screw that up. So anyway, Sigvald's battle was pretty cool, where he got ambushed. He had to fight his way out of another nasty one, and right after that, I marched Kholek north to meet up with him, and we're going to start getting the secondary armies for both Sigvald and Kholek ready. And obviously the secondary army for Sigvald is going to be led by Patchy Eversalt, Avatar of Air. And again, this was based off the feedback from the last campaign episode. So Patchy's army is going to be the one that's all of the twisted creatures. You can see it being put together here for now. Eventually we'll add Crushed Skull Foe Stomper into it as well, but that's not available to me at just this moment. I do want to get some Hell Cannons back into Sigvald's army that got lost during a tough battle. Other than that, though, that's pretty much all that's been going on. Kholek is also encamped. And we need to put a Marauder building in Kholek's army so that he can get that Marauder army that's going to follow him around. So we're going to come here and do that. Archaon, on the other hand, didn't do a whole lot. He shut down the losers in Hergig and then destroyed Brass Keep. You really didn't miss anything significant here. After the fall of Talabheim, the Empire has had no significant resistance to Archaon, though they did confederate with Middenland, so the Empire does still have some strength to its name. At this point, Archaon's army is so OP, it's the only one I trust to be on its own. During the turn-in, someone assaulted the units of Patchy the Eversalt. Oh, this brings much salt with it. Assaulting the salt. For shame. Anyway, the Eversalt. Oh, by the way, Patchy the Eversalt is a death sorcerer, folks. That was by my choice. If he was named after me, I wanted to pick, and I wanted him to be a chaos sorcerer lord, lore of death. Sigvald has leveled up, and I believe I need to check my quest battles. I think if we just win 3 more battles with them, we'll be able to go fight for Sliver Slash, which is one of his legendary items. Let's give Appius another upgrade here. Appius the Vampire Lair. I don't remember if that was from the last episode or the one before, but if you all missed it, everybody voted that he get that title. So he picked up that title, and if you don't understand it, go back and watch. You will understand. Archaon, I think I want to move and kind of swing around, take out Wolfenburg and Castle von Rauken. Oh, Hergig already resettled? That means there's an Empire army right here. Who is that stupid? Wow, never mind. We'll wreck them, and then the vampires think that they can move in on Talabheim, so we're going to quickly remind these people that when I clear out a settlement, I mean it. This I like. Assault units. Critical failure. Well, I mean, you were assaulting the Everchosen, so I'm not really sure what you expected out of that. Well, here comes Sextus. He's back. He's ready to continue his reign of terror against the Empire, and Hergig, although you all missed it last time, you won't miss it this time, but there's nothing worth seeing here. This is a pretty straightforward auto-resolve. Just gonna do a quick save just in case we get screwed. That's something I've learned to take care of. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Move along. Looks like we finished our research. That's also good. A potion of toughness. That's actually quite nice to have as well, seeing as that chaos units can't always heal. Enchanted item. I think that's where the potion of, toughness. So we're definitely not giving up the Crown of Dominion. But I think either Appius or Sextus could use that potion of toughness. Let's give it to Sextus, since he's kind of the one that we're going to be throwing into combat extremely foolhardily. So we'll give him that benefit of the doubt. As for Archaon, he's up to level 38. We need to give him his next upgrade here. He, on the last one, again, that you all didn't catch all of, he finished Ascension to Demonhood, which gives him an extra 10% physical resistance. So that's always nice. I don't know that there's anything down here on this tree that I feel a huge urgency to get to. Instead, what I would rather do is go here with Eye of Gods and start increasing his melee defense, attack, and other traits that make him an individual champion on the battlefield. Now, as far as Sextus here leveling up, be good to get Deadly Onslaught, and then we'll finish Scarred Veteran. The research that we want to do next, we probably want to go buff our Marauders in any way that we can, as buffing the Marauders will help this new army that we're about to recruit. So this one is Speed for Warhounds and Marauder units, and then this one is Leadership for Marauders. Let's go ahead and start the Leadership for the Marauders, and let's do Culling of the Week. Sigvald's Polish. Let's see. Someone asked how I got that name, that it had to have been involved in debauchery. Well, this is chaos, folks. Let's do Transmutation of Lead. Hans Aldrich, you fool. Trying to assault the units of the Everchosen. Again, a joke. And apparently Appius the Vampire Layer picks up the trait of lucky. Folks, I can't make that up. CA did that for me. Threw me a softball there, so I'll let you all enjoy it. Metastorm assaults the units of Patchy the Eversalt. Oh no. No, 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 no. The Eversalt does not get assaulted. Huh? Ooh. Nor do the lame jokes ever cease, folks. Alright, Kholek's almost finished recruiting this army of freakish mutations. Looks like he'll also be able to do some recruiting. We don't need this building here, the Tribal Relic. We don't need it for Patchy's army, so I'm going to go ahead and tear it out while building that up. But building the trial pit for Kholek makes sense because we intend for his army to make use of that. I put these two Forsaken here as placeholders till I get my Hell Cannons back. Let's go back into Sigvald here. The Soul of Damnation, I think, is available. Oh, it's one more turn before we can recruit it. I thought it was available, but it will be soon. We actually need to put the Demon Spew and the Weird Spawn into this other army. Let's actually ditch these two units. Demon Spew, weird spawn. Recruit. Why can't we recruit Regiments of Renown? I'm thoroughly confused. Let's go ahead and start recruiting our Hell Cannon. Alright, Archaon is ready to move after having destroyed Hergig. I think vampire-held Talabheim needs to fall. There's nothing here. Once again, kind of a joke. Vampires come and settle this and think that I won't turn around and wreck it. Get real, vampires. Get real and get wrecked. All at once. So, vampires are out. I think I'm going to swing over to Middenheim, destroy Middenheim, see if I can garner the attention of Karl Franz once more. We had a really epic battle with him once. I'd like to have another. So once again, some pathetic man-filth manages to injure Sextus. I'd like for Creative Assembly to explain how such things are even possible. It's utterly ridiculous. Sextus can't be wounded. Bunch of garbage. Anyway, I'm gonna head north.
The gods direct me.
Don't try and tell me things that I know can't happen. Alright, there's an enemy army nearby. Sigvald is in pretty decent position to destroy it. Is there some reason why he can't leave the encampment? Oh, he's still recruiting. I was like, what? CA please. Air please is more like it. Anyway, we're almost finished with the recruiting of the armies, so I guess that the treasurer, Nicholas Holes, gets to escape with his life, potentially. Not to say that he may not be hunted down. I mean, at some point he absolutely will be hunted down. Let's get toughened skin so we can unlock the Sun Eater next. Boy, Kholek is going to be absurdly powerful.
Greetings. Your abasement pleases me.
The abasement of Marathi pleases you? Ooh. It's pretty rough. We're making it happen, folks.
You are a irrelevant vampire. Nothing but a withered soul clinging to mortal remains. I will dominate you.
You know, Archaon, I couldn't have said it better myself. That was actually very well put, sir. Pfft, yeah. You got nothing more to offer than that. Alright, folks, it's time to break up the party here and get back to work.
I'll ignore that.
This treasurer and his small garrison from Beckhofen needs to be humbled, nay, humiliated, by the scion of Slaanesh. Look at him. He has artillery. And demigryph knights. It won't save him. So the battle of the Magnificent against the money-grubbing treasurer of the Emperor. The Hell Cannons are going to begin the battle. And you can see that they are bombarding the troops of the treasurer from afar. You can see his troops massing over on this side of the battlefield. He's got outriders. There are great swords. There are demigryphs with their lances. He's got artillery, Hellstorm rocket batteries, which are now returning fire over the hill. But the troops of the Empire are going to march forward because the bombardment they're receiving from my Hell Cannons is severe, and it's causing a great deal of damage to their troops, and they have a great distance to cover before they can engage and feel like they can start to overcome it. I'm going to begin to target the greatswords of the Empire. Without their greatswords, they'll be less effective. A couple of Hell Cannon shots missed because of an odd angle. I didn't personally direct these Hell Cannon shots because I was busy maintaining an eye on when I needed to charge the infantry forward, but I'll let you all catch some of the beautiful cinematics here as this battle opens up. Trading the rocket barrages against the Hell Cannons. And the Hell Cannons hit hard, folks. They are hitting very, very hard. On the opposite side of the battlefield, seeing the Empire troops marching forward, Sigvald walking right in front of his mirror guard, which, speaking of, I need to find like a mod that gives the mirror guard the guardian ability. It seems very appropriate for them since they're an infantry unit meant to go with Sigvald, and Sigvald needs that extra help on the battlefield, so if there isn't one, I might have to have one of you all make one for me. Just a mod to add guardian to the mirror guard, if such things are possible, and I believe it would be. So here comes the Scion of Slaanesh, going to clash lines here with the Empire. I do have my cavalry working the flanks, the mirror guard and their leader. Clash there. I'll let you all see the overhead picture just so you can get an idea of how the battle's unfolding. I'm being attacked by Demigryph Knights on the flanks, but I've intercepted them with halberds, and I'm going to reinforce with Knights. My Hell Cannons are now targeting handguns, and they'll choose their next handgun target. You can see that here. The fight on the flanks goes to my favor a little more quickly. These Demigryph Knights are going to be overwhelmed by halberds and my own Knights. You can see here that the flank begins to break up quickly. I'm going to be using my Metal Sorcerer to bombard a large chunk of Empire infantry. I've also used the Golden Hounds here to tear through a blob of infantry, though it ends up going somewhat in my own direction, which wasn't great. But Sigvald and his forces easily hold the middle, and the flanks have collapsed. The Empire troops couldn't hold their metal together on the flanks, and it's now going to cost their brothers in the middle quite dearly. They've put up a fairly impressive fight in the middle, all things considered, but recall that these aren't Archaon's chosen. These are simply the Chaos Warriors who weren't good enough to make it into that army, but they were beautiful enough to follow Sigvald. You can see here a character, there he is, fighting alongside his lord and master, Sigvald. No longer just camped out in the reaches of the north. And here come the reinforcing troops, the aspiring champions, flashing into the back of the Empire troops. Their size and ferocity, no doubt, making the Empire troops soil themselves ahead of this fight. The Knights with lances, you can see, easily breaking through the skirmishers, and they'll now be able to find their way into the back of this main fight here in the middle and finish off once and for all the last hopes of the Treasurer and his troops. He should stick to banking, because battle is apparently not his thing. And with this, the Empire goes into the throes of another crushing defeat at the hands of the Warriors of Chaos. They did put up a fight, admirable, I guess, for the Empire's sake. But their forces were cut down, driven back, and reminded why this is the end times, and how, despite their attempts to slow it, it's a wave washing over the old world of men. And Slaanesh's Scion scores an epic victory over Treasurer Nicholas Hulse. Man, though, can't you see the difference between the Chosen of Archaon's army and even these mighty Chaos Warriors in Sigvald's army? They have so far to go before they measure up to their Chosen brethren, but nevertheless, they slaughtered a great many men, and now you know why I have the second army ready to follow him, because if you ended up against more than this, you'd be in serious trouble. Without Archaon's ward saves and other stuff buffing his Chosen. But for now, we're good. Now, we need to swap the troops between these two armies. Now we gotta get rid of this message first. So, essentially, everything here switches to the bottom, and everything here switches to the top. Pretty straightforward swap. Now, I do believe that Patchy will need another hero in his army. You all help me decide what hero that's gonna be, whether it is an exalted hero or yet another sorcerer, and then what's their name, why are they there. Help me put a little bit of story behind it, just to make it interesting. I cannot move back because we're too close to the settlement. I don't even know what's happening right now. I can't move forward and attack the settlement, but I can't move back and stop attacking the settlement. I can go into an encampment, which I guess is what I will decide to do, And we're going to go ahead and have Patchy's army begin to follow Sigvald and kind of add that extra layer of protection here. So here is the freakish mutations that I suppose maybe represent Nurgle. Is that what this army would be? I mean, wow, what a mess this army is. I can only imagine like a fat Jabba the Hutt type Nurgle being approving of such disgusting creatures. Speaking of disgusting creatures, let's build this Arcane Vortex so we can drop the upkeep for our Forsaken units, which makes a lot of sense for that army. And as for Archaon, he's ready to march on Mittenheim. No one there is ready to defend it. It will have a garrison, though, and we'll have to build our siege towers. But once we do, we can make them fall. Mittenheim may be a custom map as well. Let's take a look real quick. I believe it is a custom map. Yes, it is. So that should be pretty fun. Well, actually, we've already gotten it, so we know it is. It's the one that had the giant cannon, I believe. Yeah, I recall now. Enemy agents fail, and it's time to go about our way here.
Dark Prince wishes.
My Lord Sinch agrees.
This is going to be a simple auto-resolve matter here. I have so much dark favor that the 57-33 really isn't even worth it.
Kill them all.
Carry out a successful assassination attempt against one character belonging to the following race, Norska. Alright. Well, I'll have to move north and carry out an assassination attempt. As far as Sigvald goes, let's finish off this Tribes of Chaos so that the horde growth for him is at maximum. And then a character here. We finished his Assassinate and Specialist tree so he can help protect Sigvald if needed. His training is also about as good as it gets at this point. I'm going to wait until he places him on a Manticore. So let's just go ahead up to that point with this hard to hit. Extra melee defense is always a good way to keep a character from dying prematurely in battle. There is a Skaven stack wandering without protection a little further north here. I do want to destroy the rats in Kislev. Can you ambush his chaos? No. We cannot.
No, you failed.
I failed? That remains to be seen. There's a huge garrison of storm vermin with halberds, so I don't recommend that we attack them within their settlement, but I do believe that we should be able to defeat them outside the settlement. So what I'm going to do, there's a bridge right here. I'm going to attempt to bypass the Skaven. This may lure them out into an open field battle with me, at which point I'm a lot more willing to take that risk. Even though there's still a lot of storm vermin with room to maneuver, we can deal with a lot of the storm vermin potentially.
Ready.
You need a boon?
Patchy himself picks up some of his first skill points. We're going to start with Route Marcher, and then also Tribes of Chaos, and then immediately into his magic tree. He's going to stay put for now and help guard Sigvald. Meanwhile, the siege continues with Archaon, but Appius levels up yet again. It might not be a bad idea at this point to build up Appius's ability to wound and his specialist. Kholek picks up a trait called Fortunate. What is that, a joke? Double barrel, rare, twice the firepower, missile damage, and reload time reduction. Carry out a successful attack. I don't know who this would help, because I don't know that any of my characters use missile damage or reload reduction. Because it's a weapon. Yeah, never mind. So that's not really a priority for me. The siege will continue at Middenheim. Here in the north, we've got the Emperor's Eye packing an incredible number of great swords. And then Emperor Karl Franz is here as well. So we're in for a rather large battle, potentially, here in the north at Zavastra. This would be a good chance to put Patchy's army to the test here. We could put these armored Chaos Trolls behind some of our infantry in order to give that extra armor-piercing punch against the great swords. This could be an interesting battle that we could try and set up here. So what I'm going to do, actually, is take Sigvald first, upgrade the Polisher here. Let's finalize final yeah, I didn't mean to say final. Let's finish the final transmutation line there. And then let's go lay siege to Zavastra. Hang on. Whoa. Let's not be crazy.
Who are these grotesque?
Who are these grotesque creatures?
Unleash
Well,
chaos.
don't look behind you, Sigvald, but Air put an entire army of grotesque creatures behind you. But worry not, they just make you look even more magnificent, sir. Even more magnificent. There's a small garrison here.
Never.
I want to go ahead and defeat these forces. It'd be kind of fun to let them group up with Karl Franz, but I'm going to go ahead and put them out of their misery. And as for the rats here, they think that they're smart, holed up in Kislev, but I'm going to pull a Hannibal on them. These are like the Romans, thinking that they're tough within their fortifications, while I just march right past them to a weaker point. Ooh, did I say weaker point? Yikes. There's a lot of Skaven here too, and they also have walls. So, nay, we're not going to waste our time on these settlements with Kholek until he has that Marauder army to follow him around, which he can have soon, but he's going to need to get a little more population surplus, I think, before we can recruit another Chaos Lord. In fact, we can go here. Yeah, we need 14 population surplus, and then we will recruit a Chaos Lord, and we'll rename him Felman Ingerson. And Felman Ingerson will lead the host of Marauders against the enemies of the world, or the enemies of chaos throughout the world. Those who would oppose
Despoil.
the impending
Bring them
apocalypse,
to ruin.
which should be anybody who's intelligent. I mean, unless they just really enjoy dying. So Wolfgang fancies himself as the Emperor's Eye. We'll see what his name is after the battle. If he wants to earn his title on the battlefields against chaos, that title must indeed be earned. And is this really what you want to fight? Look at Besornling, a character here. Look at that axe. Oh my goodness. And then Sigvald. Oh boy. Looks like he's got like a rapier there or something. The mirror guard behind him. My forces of chaos are arrayed against the Empire, and once again we're going to have a bit of a firepower advantage from a distance, but not just the firepower. While the Scion of Slaanesh leads his army of very beautiful things, handsome things, magnificent things, I guess, I don't know if this really represents Nurgle, but I mean the giant pustulous bags of disgusting creatures now entering the battlefield, and the two combining, the two opposites, finding their strengths together. Look at this, the Demon Spew, the Gore Beast Chariots, and they will combine into an army that will hit like an absolute truck, and is probably only overshadowed by Archaon's army and his amazing Chosen. My Chaos Dawi are now taking the full brunt of the Empire artillery barrage, but those rockets aren't going to cause me too much damage, and I'm going to continue to badly damage the Empire army. Needing every advantage it can get, Wolfgang sends forward his Luminarch of Hysh, attempting to bring down the soul of damnation that is wreaking damnation on so many souls in Wolfgang's army. There goes a few more. You can see the Luminarch winding up for a shot here. The soul of damnation is destroyed. Its crew not entirely gone, but not able to continue firing, so one small victory to Wolfgang. But now, will that Luminarch be enough to stop the monstrous host behind it? Check out our trolls here. Let me also show you the new Regiments of Renown that we have in this particular army. Right here in the middle is the Regiment of Renown Armored Chaos Trolls. These guys are looking awesome, just barely missing getting missed by a shot from the Luminarch. And here's our weird spawn. A little more flamboyantly colored than the normal variety, but looking pretty awesome. They're going to be running with Forsaken on the flanks. And we are squaring off here for a battle of epic size and proportions. And when these lines clash, it is going to be with a huge thunder of charging monsters against the steel and what's left of the faith of the Empire of Men. Let's just see how long their faith holds. My Gore-Beast chariots are going to immediately punch into the infantry lines and then push on through in order to obtain the artillery of the Empire and to shut it down. My monsters were running just a hair ahead of most of my infantry, but here you can see all my Chaos Spawn and Trolls absolutely flaying the Empire infantry, soon to be backed up by infantry, rear charges from cavalry, and across the entire line, the Empire forces crumble under the withering assault of armor and mutated creatures that combine into one unholy horror of the apocalypse. The Luminarch, which early on struck down some of my instruments of chaos, now fleeing around the battlefield for its very existence, and my armored trolls will find and destroy it quickly. The Empire army absolutely crushed by the combination of that which is magnificent and that which is magnificently disgusting. What is this? It's like the magnificent and the mutated, all into one. And oh my goodness, is it a beautiful combination. It is really an excellent combination. You have the armor and staying power of my infantry line, now backed up by the speed and damage potential of all the mutated creatures following, and then the infantry punching power of the chariots is incredible. The only thing that this army is missing is Crushed Skull Foe Stomper, which will join them eventually. And we've learned an important lesson from this battle, which is to be as beautiful as Sigvald is, and as magnificent as he is, you have to be surrounded by things that are hideous to truly make that shine through. And Patchy Eversalt, the Avatar of Air, brought the hideous. One is magnificent, the other is atrocious. And the combination couldn't be better. What a face stomping that was, as the Emperor's Eye and his gigantic army got troll rolled by the Eversalt and then the Magnificent. I guess I'll go ahead and loot and raise. If that growth went to the Eversalt, it would be okay, but I'll go ahead. Zavastra has fallen, and Castle von Rauken, garrisoned by the Emperor, looks likely, very, very likely indeed, to be the next to fall. Our Chaos Warriors have been blessed. Hammer into Anvil would be good for our cavalry. Let's go down that road. But then we certainly need to go ahead and invest in this once we hit rank 12, which is going to be, oh wow, Chaos Lord and Chaos Sorcerer Lord for all armies. That kind of sucks, but I guess that's part of being an egomaniac. Then we have Self-Obsessed, Stylish. This is going to be crazy, an extra 8 army and 6 melee defense for his whole army. That's going to be really, really nice. This is also going to be a very nice addition here. Born to Serve, eh. And then Unworthy. Sigvald causing terror? Sure, why not? We'll take any cool additions to Sigvald that we can get. Folks, the Skaven are ambushing the Mountain God. I wonder how well this will go for them. Something tells me that it probably won't be the best thing that's ever happened for them. Let's find out. Ambushed by treacherous Skaven? We have no idea what to expect. I have no idea how many rats we're up against. I didn't even get to see them all prior to the battle. But Kholek's let's just stop here and show you all the odds that we're up against as far as we know right now. It starts off outnumbered over 10 to 1. 118 of mine creatures up against 1,489 rats. But we know that there are probably more rats, or else they wouldn't have attacked me with this single army. The AI does not like to put themselves at a disadvantage, so just to quickly show you the army that is in front of me, led by the Filth Morlock, the leader of Clan Mulder. He's got a lot of storm vermin, including those with halberds, which could be some risk to us. There are a few rat ogres, a few skirmishers, and warp lightning cannons. I have to shut down those cannons and do it in a hurry, and my intention is to swing around behind a piece of the Skaven army and quickly put it to a terror rout, and I'll use Kholeks as well as my Dragon Ogre Shaggoths to accomplish that. So my Gorbeast chariots immediately punch through the infantry line, and they're going to charge back into the warp lightning cannons and silence them because they can cause far too much damage to the large units of my army. I cannot stay engaged with halberds for long without having some support. So you can see my Shaggoths here bringing in the terrifying punch needed to put these infantry to waste. Kholek trying to slow down the skirmishers over here with his own lightning. And let's just take a look and see what's happening. Does the terror approach work? Yes, it does. My left flank crushes the Skaven right flank immediately, and Kholek holds his own in the middle. And now we have a chain route rolling, and I do mean rolling. So the initial enemy army, outnumbering us over 10 to 1, breaks in under a minute for all intents and purposes here, not able to hold its ground for even a mere seconds against the might of the Mountain God's army. You can see here these Globadiers here, Death Globe Bombardiers, sorry, attempting to get my chariots, but I won't let it happen. And if we stop again to look at the power bar, originally it was 1,400 rats. We are already up against now 4,000 rats. So we are literally now outnumbered 100 to 1 on the battlefield. Or sorry. I'm doing the maths wrong here, people. So that's going to be a 400 to 1, is it not? It's 100 into 4,000. Yeah, it's 400. 400 to 1. I like those odds. I probably still did the math wrong because it's late. But if I didn't, then so be it. Anyway, now that the majority of Morlock's army has routed, we can pick it off piecemeal as it attempts to re-enter the battlefield, and my goal here is to absolutely annihilate his army and send as many of these Skaven packing for as few losses as possible. We'll then need to engage the reinforcing forces in as much of a blob as possible. During the actual battle, I couldn't see these reinforcing troops yet. They weren't visible to me. So I am being approached from either flank, so my sole focus was over here on destroying the remnants of his army, which at this point is quite easy. The terror has spread and there's no stopping it. His army's been broken thoroughly. I saved all of the breath attacks on Kholeks, and I've saved the chain lightning on my Summoners of Rage. And that's intentional. If there's another infantry blob marching in as reinforcements, I intend to blob it with my ogres, and then use the lightning and the chain lightning, as well as the breath attacks from Kholek to cause massive damage, followed up by a charge from Gorbeast chariots to cause an absolute chain rout amongst the reinforcing troops. In a pretty efficient manner, we were able to put an end to a huge number of Skaven units. They're now up to 4,100 units to our original 118. And folks, the odds are just going to continue to stack against us in terms of numbers, but you can see the power bar is able to respect our army despite the numbers of Skaven. And we'll soon find out whether 400 rats is worth one Dragon Ogre of the Mountain God's army. So the initial ambush absolutely shattered. Let's look around on the ground. I just want you to see what happens when you ambush the Mountain God. This is what's left. This is what's left. A string of carnage like nothing else that could be seen. And here he is, the Mountain God himself. Let's get a shot of him. He's certainly earned a good selfie here. Yeah, you just don't attack a giant electric dragon ogre. It's not a good idea. In finishing off these last few forces, I do actually momentarily catch a glimpse of the reinforcing forces coming in from this side of the map, and I determined that this is going to be my next objective. The Skaven reinforcements are making their way onto the battlefield very, very slowly. I'm not really sure why the AI has done this. Typically, they're pretty quick to reinforce, but even had they come on at full speed, it's not likely that they could have caught my army. The best thing that the Skaven can do at this point is to spread out. Spread out their forces, don't let me blob, and don't let me cause that damage. But that's meaning that the AI is going to actually spread out. So I did spot the Skaven reinforcements coming in on what was originally my right-hand side of the map. And I'm going to put the plan that I mentioned earlier into an effect. And like I said, this plan is going to be me causing a massive blob, which gets bombarded by multiple abilities, and then hit with a potential terror route near instantly. So again, if we take a look, see where the odds are at, it's now 4,200 Skaven that were against my original 118. Bear in mind, though, that the AI can only have so many units on the battlefield at a time, so there may be even more reinforcements behind this. You can see my Dragon Ogres in the distance, led by Kholek, lining up on the mountainside and charging forward. Skull-X has a perfect opportunity in a dense blob here to cause massive damage with the breath attack. And then the Shaggoths attack first to break the charge. There's going to be some Warp Lightning coming in from the Skaven. Right over here I see a beautiful blob. And my Summoners of Rage are going to drop their Lightning Storm on it. Chain Lightning. So the Skaven will suffer massive casualties in that blob. The Chain Lightning moved on a little too quickly for my liking. Probably should have placed it a little closer, but I was worried it could have gone either direction. But one way or the other, the Summoners of Rage picked up a huge number of kills. Skull-X has another breath attack ready and gets massive damage while Kholek strikes with his lightning. And then at that very moment, the Chariots hit the flank of the Skaven infantry, and the chain route is on, folks. Skull-X gets hit with a Howling Warp Gale, which was actually extremely timely for the Skaven and saved them from an all-out chain route. But still, most of their units were gone by the time it happened. All that's left is the couple of leader units, so you can see that thousands of Skaven almost instantly met their fate in one of the most savage attacks that I've ever perpetrated in a total war battle. Just look at the remnants of this battle, how quickly an entire Skaven army was dispatched. If we take a look here, the number is now up to 4,700. We've killed so many units that more reinforcements can come. So Kholek at this point was attacked by 4,700 rats at least, and potentially more. Potentially more. Fortunately for me, those reinforcements are actually coming in from the other side of the map, over here. So you can see that there are some Skaven slave slingers and a Warp Lightning cannon making its way onto the battlefield. From the complete opposite side of the map, the Skaven are still taking far too much time with their reinforcements and are nowhere near where they need to be to save their brethren. Now, what I couldn't see, because these were hidden through the forest, was additional Skaven reinforcements coming on this side of the map. It's just clan rats and Skaven slave spears, as well as a few Poison Wind Globadiers. But there are more reinforcements coming, and they'll have slightly more sinister reinforcements coming momentarily. The number of Skaven that have been involved in the fight has now climbed to near 5,000, and I've dispatched most of them at this point. About 3,500 rats have been forced away from the battlefield, but that still leaves my 86 monsters against 1,500 rats. But we've known longer odds than that in this fight, so I'm not exactly worried yet, but yet more reinforcements come onto the battlefield. The number quickly jumps to 5,100 as hundreds more Skaven pour in. Rat Ogres as well. So my Chariots will have to beware. The Rat Ogres can actually slow down their momentum. Again, I haven't yet seen this as it's happening. And look, more rats. 5,339 rats. And worse yet, a Warp Lightning cannon begins to roll onto the battlefield. Again, I didn't notice this immediately. I was going to line up my troops to regain all of their vigor. So I've got my troops over here. Their vigor is actually better than one would expect, as I have done some upgrades. A second Warp Lightning Cannon rolls onto the battlefield. So the Skaven amassing some pretty significant reinforcements, and I am not even aware of it at this moment. I'm a little bit out of position with Kholek, who was chasing down some extra food, and I was kind of toying with Vermich the Assassin, who has tormented me so many times on the campaign map. I guess this is some kind of joke. Take a hike, Vermich. I had moved my Gorbeast chariots over into these woods to regain their vigor. Little did I know I was being approached by a pretty large host of infantry. That infantry gained sight of my chariots, and I was in range of the Warp Lightning Cannons. I immediately noticed that I was under attack from the Warp Lightning Cannons, and realized that I had to take action. So we uncover, I say immediately, not immediately enough. So I take some devastating volleys here from the Warp Lightning Cannons on a critical group of units in my army. And it's at this point that I decide, well, I'm gonna have to go get those, I'm gonna have to go get these artillery. And if I maneuver around these infantry, I'm just gonna get shot worse. So I'm gonna go ahead and plow through the enemy infantry, and then make my way back to the Warp Lightning Cannons. While charging through the infantry, it became visible to me that the enemy also had rat ogres nearby, which is very bad. There's the potential here that my chariots are going to get swamped by rat ogres and shot down by Warp Lightning Cannons, and this could potentially sink my entire bid to overcome these over 5,000 rats that I've had to face. In fact, as we look at the number, it's now 5,558 rats that Kholek's 118 monsters have had to face. And indeed, the rat ogres do manage to get into my chariots, but it's full steam ahead, folks. It is Warp Lightning Cannons or bust for my chariots. I will not slow down. I'm not going to be held up by anything. And all these skirmishers here are also not going to stop my dragon ogres from making their way to that artillery and shutting it down before it does the damage that it needs to do to help them win the battle. Killing these Warp Lightning Cannons is absolutely everything to win this fight. Although my Gorbeast chariots are tired and moving through the woods, they manage to get all the way forward, begin to attack the Warp Lightning Cannons. They're being pursued hotly by rat ogres, and I've got Kholek and his dragon ogre Shaggoths stomping their way through the Skaven infantry, which is attempting to hold me up, as well as my dragon ogres, and I'm going to just crash right through to the rear of the Skaven army. This will also pull all of the Skaven troops. I'll give you all a bit of an overhead here. This is all going to pull the Skaven troops near the white line here on the edge of the battle map. And so when they rout, they will be routed straight off the battle map. I've now been able to catch the rat ogres. This was the only real danger to my Gorbeast chariots. As you can imagine, Dragon Ogre Shaggoth shut down rat ogres very, very quickly. Both artillery units, in fact all three, have been knocked off of their artillery pieces. Those artillery pieces are now destroyed. And what little chance the Skaven had of success goes up in a puff of warp dust as quickly as it came. Kholek comes back, I guess looking for a much larger, tastier treat than these rat ogres. Kholek has done tremendous work in this battle, 382 kills. So with their artillery gone, it's now a simple matter of just blob smashing all of the Skaven in the forest. Their skirmishers are somewhat impeded because of the forest. My already well-armored units are not taking a ton of damage from Skaven slave slingers. There are a couple of slightly more deadly skirmishers around, but it won't really matter. These gutter runners strayed too close to the fight and will quickly be squelched. And then regrouping bits of infantry like these storm vermin come back in, only for Kholek to remind them why they routed in the first place. And the slaughter, the absolute slaughter of Skaven continues. 5,675 Skaven that have now been involved in the battle, and they're being absolutely crushed by Kholek. 1,600 still remain on the map, by the way. And I know that I have a whole other army to fight. Within this army are a good deal of plague monks. Not particularly frightening, but as you can imagine, I'm pretty anxious to get this fight over with. I don't want to lose any of the units in Kholek's army, and I want to deal them a crushing defeat. If I can stomp as many of these troops off of the battlefield as possible, the power bar might swing against the Skaven and finish the chain route for me. My chariots are now free to begin to get ready for the next action. Over here, I decide I'm going to smash out all these skirmishers. Here in the woods, for whatever reason, I'm having a relatively easy time catching these units, despite thinking that I would actually have a hard time, as my guys are slower in the woods and the Skaven have their snare nets and other things. But thus far, I was able to rip into a great deal of the Skaven skirmishers, which actually hits the power bar, and Kholek wins against 5,753 Skaven skirmishers that couldn't even pull down half of Kholek's army. Not even close. What a victory for the Mountain God. Folks, 5,753 rats were not worth the 133 monsters of Kholek's army. And speaking of monsters, look at the kills there. Skullex the Great, Slayer, he feasted upon vermin. Clearly, all the monsters of the mountains were hungry, and the Skaven came offering like tasty morsels. Oh boy. Morlock, I hope you've learned never, ever to anger the Mountain God. And never a better place than to end this episode there on probably one of the most magnificent battles of this campaign. HeirofCarthage, signing out. I will see you all soon.